I invite everyone to take a deep breath. I know we started out the service that way. And let out a sound that describes how you're feeling in this moment. Maybe you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed with the state of the world. Maybe you're feeling hectic and rushed, that life is too much, the world is too much with you. Maybe you had a rough week, maybe you've had a rough life. And here at Circle of Miracles feels like a home, a haven. So I encourage you to use this time we have together to fill back up, to be inspired, to let the yucky stuff out, let the yummy stuff in, and just be present in this moment. That song is one of my favorite songs. It's been out a few years now. But imagine what life would be like if we all had bigger tables where we invited people in, where we invited love in, where we invited community and companionship in. And think about in your own lives where you might want to do that. Because at the holidays, when we get together with our family of origin and our family of choice, we were talking before the service about a spiritual teacher named Ram Dass. Does everyone or anyone not know who he was? He spoke about the idea that if you want to see how spiritual you are, spend a week with your family. Anybody can relate to that?
Yeah.
I was blessed to have a wonderful family. They weren't perfect, but my parents taught me about acceptance and welcoming. And even though I was raised Jewish, I had a lot of Christian friends, and they didn't encourage me to go, but they allowed me to go to services with my friends. And at the holidays, Christian friends would invite me to their homes, and we would invite them to our home for Passover, for Hanukkah, and they learned a new culture. Because for me, Judaism wasn't just about religion, it was about culture and family and tradition. And I've learned to create my own traditions. I'm an ordained interfaith minister, graduated from the New Seminary in New York. And the motto was always in addition to, never instead of. So that's why I have an eclectic spiritual practice. And that's why I'm wearing this beautiful stole that I inherited, was bequeathed to me. My friend Jody Kessler, some of you know her, was an amazing musician, singer, songwriter, yoga teacher, kirtan chant artist. She died a year ago, August, of glioblastoma. And a few months ago, her husband Doug said, I have some of Jody's things that she was also an interfaith minister. Would you like them? So I have 3 stoles. This is the most colorful and it matches what I'm wearing. And the other was like a purple, like a stole. And so I carry her with me. I carry the teachings of the New Seminary with me. And at the holidays is a particularly important time for me to put that hat on, because you think about all the winter holidays, they're all about light, right? You think about starting with Thanksgiving, which is in a few weeks. It's about family, it's about gratitude, and it's about creating new traditions. When I had an experience, one of the most poignant, and sometimes when I think about it, painful Thanksgivings I had was in 1998. My husband, Michael, had been diagnosed with hepatitis C in 1992. So we went through a 6-year process of him, up and down roller coaster ride. And on November 11th of 1998, he was admitted into the ICU at Thomas Jefferson University Hospital, waiting for a liver transplant. He went in a coma, and he never got the liver transplant. But that Thanksgiving, my mom was up from Florida. My parents had retired. They ran away from home when they retired and moved to Florida. So my mom was up at that point, and she said, you are going to Thanksgiving dinner at Aunt Sue and Uncle Jim's in New Jersey. And I panicked. I said, I can't leave the hospital. What if he dies while I'm gone? Or what if he gets the transplant and I'm not here and I can't say goodbye and I can't, all that. She said, you're going, it'll be okay. They'll call you if there's an emergency, we'll get you back over there. So that was probably one of the last Thanksgivings I had with my aunt and uncle, sitting there eating, looking at back then I wore a watch, I don't wear a watch now, but looking at my watch, say, okay, can we leave? Can we leave? Can we leave? When I got back, I was finally able to relax. So the holidays had a kind of a bittersweet touch for me back then, because he was literally in the hospital through Thanksgiving, through the winter, I'm sorry, right before he died, right before the winter solstice, through Hanukkah. I decorated his room in the ICU with all kinds of prayer icons, with lights. We had an electric menorah. We had pictures of him when he was healthy. So the hospital room was a healing haven for me and anybody that walked into it, including the staff. These, usually when people work in the ICU, they're on edge when they walk into a patient's room. They said, we love coming into this room because it's so healing. I mean, imagine what you see here in a hospital room. And I had a boom box back then, big boom box with a tape, cassette tapes of spiritual, healing, peaceful, relaxing music. And I would say to the staff, if I'm out of this room and the tape stops, turn it over or put a new one in. I want the music on 24/7. And I think it was. So that was one of the deaths around the holidays. He died December 21st of 1998. My mother died November 26th of 2010, the day after Thanksgiving. A dear friend, Andrea Johnson, who some of you there might know, and we did her service here, died December 8th of 2018. So the holidays have a bittersweet feeling for me as a result of that. And if any of you have lost people around the holidays, you'll know. And even if you haven't lost people around the holidays, when the holidays come around and there's an empty chair at the table, right? So holidays are about light, but they're also about loss. They're also about a little bit of conflict. And again, you don't have to answer, but because we're obviously not going to, do personal stuff while we're being recorded, but think about in your own minds if there are conflicts, if you got a twist in your stomach when you think about going home or talking to certain family members, especially in the heated times in which we live. And how can you walk into those settings if you choose to, beaming that light that you talked about, like just being your full, loving, blasting out, good vibes self. Can anybody relate to that? Yeah, okay. So how do we survive this holiday season when nearly everything is getting us down? I wrote an article about that for the Elephant Journal a few years ago. And some of it is, continuity, consistency. Don't wait until before the holidays to have your shields up. And I don't mean shields up to keep people out, but shields up to keep the, like the pain and the anxiety and the despair. When I couldn't come up with a word a few months ago to describe how I feel sometimes. And my sister said, despair, is that it? I said, yeah, that's it. So if any of you are feeling a sense of despair as we come toward the end of the year, an antidote is to feel the love, to be fully present in spaces like this, where you're surrounded by kindred spirits, where you fill your cups back up, where you allow yourselves to receive whatever download, if you want to call it that, from here, there, and everywhere. And you're talking about the work that you're doing in your new center. I imagine, and when I come visit, I imagine that your new space is going to feel like that. When people walk in, they're fully present to their own divinity. Because I think that's part of what the holidays are about too. Isn't just the divinity is out there, regardless of which holidays you celebrate, the divinity is in here. We are all divinely designed. And I don't tell anybody what to believe spiritually. It's an inside job. And what I say is that love is my religion, and God, by whatever name you call it, is way too big to fit into any one box. And I have my daily conversations. Anybody ever do that? Where you talk to the whoever, whatever, the God of your understanding, and you ask questions. And my favorite spiritual question is, WTF? Like, why is this happening? How is this happening? And what do I do about it? Okay, because it's not just bemoaning what doesn't feel good in our lives, but how do I make it better? And you were talking about being a therapist. When I sit with my clients, I want to kiss all the boo-boos and make them better. I want to, save your behavior is what I call it, right? But it's not my job to do that. It's my job to sit with them while we try to figure out how they can heal the boo-boos themselves. As a support person, A therapist is just there as a guide and as somebody who can just sit with them while they go through their stuff. Okay. One of the things that I do is I like watching holiday movies. And this past week, I watch my grandkids sometimes. My 3-year-old granddaughter wanted to watch Home Alone. Anybody here not seen that, that iconic movie? So she kept saying, why they leave him? Why they not take him? She's again 3. Why they not take him with, And I said, the movie, what happens. So that's one, Ted Lasso. Anybody not seen Ted Lasso? One of my favorite episodes is the Christmas episode. Do you remember where they all end up at Leslie's house and there's like this huge crowded table of all the different players talking about their countries and their traditions. And then did they have a snowball fight afterward or something? Something happens outside and they're singing and all the lights are on. So if you need a lift, uplift, watch that up. I don't know the number of the episode. Watch that one again. And then The Family Stone. It was probably one of the last movies Diane Keaton made. So it's particularly poignant now. I don't remember what streaming service it's on. Anybody just popcorn style, any of your favorite holiday movies? What do you like to watch?
With Jimmy Stewart.
Wonderful.
Oh, It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah. Yeah. What was that? Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Don't.
Oh, yeah. 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 No, not at all. Yep. Yeah. The one where John gets caught in a snowstorm and they have to, oh, okay. Yeah. The Grinch. Yes. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Christmas Story, okay, yeah. Yep. Right. So if you get a chance, watch holiday movies, right? There's, I forget which cartoon it is with the little kids, and it was a Hanukkah show. Oh my God, something babies, what are they called? Rugrats Hanukkah. If you want to learn about Hanukkah from the perspective of little kids, cartoon kids, that's a good one to watch. I don't know if there are any Kwanzaa movies on, but recognize that the holidays are not just Hanukkah and Christmas. They're Kwanzaa, the winter solstice. Are there any others that I missed that happen around that?
Festivus for the rest.
Festivus for the rest. There we go. Yeah. What was that? Diwali. Okay. I thought Diwali was before that. Yeah. But yeah, allow yourself, encourage yourself to immerse in other traditions besides the ones that you grew up with, because they are literally enlightening and uplifting. So I encourage you to do that. The other thing that I hear people complaining about is as soon as the Halloween decorations are gone from the stores, it's like a Christmas box just exploded with all the, with everything all in the music. So when do you start decorating for whatever holidays you celebrate? They do, yeah. I put my little tabletop tree up there usually around then. Yeah.
I stopped decorating. Maybe that's not a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, even if you have, I have twinkle lights up in my house all year round. Anybody else? When do you start? If you do decorate? Yeah. Okay. I have a friend who died a number of years ago, and she had a tree up all year round, and she would change the decorations on it for the season. Yeah.
We keep sparkle mistletoe
Uh-huh.
on our chandelier all year round.
Wonderful. Yeah, ready for kissing, right?
Kissing right above the door.
Absolutely. That's marvelous. Okay. Yeah. And the other thing that's kind of cool is seeing the holidays through the eyes of children. I remember the first year, my grandson, who's now 5, his first Christmas, Hanukkah, his eyes were just like, oh, what is this? So many colors and the music. And in their neighborhood, they have a lot of people that have inflatables on their lawn, including my son and daughter-in-law. For every holiday, they have inflatables. So he loved walking through the neighborhood and looking at all the inflatables. My son was raised in an interfaith home. I'm Jewish. My husband was what he called run-of-the-mill vanilla Protestant, United Church of Christ when he was growing up. When we met, he was going to Quaker meeting. And then 3 years after we married, by no influence of my own, he decided to convert to Judaism. So we still incorporated the cultural traditional holidays. So my son had no direct religious practice. But when he and his wife, who was raised Catholic, got married, she asked for a menorah in the house because she said, I want to learn about Adam's traditions too. So I got them a menorah. And when Dean was old enough, probably like 2 years old, to be, I'm sure they did it when he was a year old, but all he saw was candles. And guess what he wanted to do after we lit them? Blow them out. And you don't blow Hanukkah candles out. You let them burn down. So we got an extra set of candles that you can get at the supermarket. And we gave him one to blow out each night. So I think by now he knows you don't blow them out. But it was exciting to see that he was getting into traditions that he really didn't understand the meaning of. So this year I got the kids both coloring books about Hanukkah. So they'll learn about that because they're getting mostly their education through their Catholic upbringing, which is fine. Because what I tell people is I don't know why there's such a divide, because Jesus was a nice Jewish boy, right? He was called rabbi, he practiced Jewish traditions. So that's why I encourage the blending of traditions so we learn to understand each other. I think that's important. The other tradition that I do is that I listen to WXPN. Do you know that radio station? Mm-hmm. If you don't, it's University of Pennsylvania member supported station. And if you are in the car, it's 88.5 FM. And if you stream it at home, it's xpn.org. And they have a tradition, I think it's like 26 or 27 years now. Robert Drake is one of the DJs there. And he cultivates a TV show, a radio show called The Night Before. So Christmas Eve, I think it's Christmas Eve. He starts at midnight and he is literally on the radio. He started out 24 hours on the radio. I'm sure he gets up for pee breaks and to eat and stuff, but he doesn't sleep. And then I think the year that it crossed over to 25, he did it for 25 hours. So if you get a chance, listen to that. So it's the night before Christmas. So it's Christmas Eve until midnight on Christmas Eve. And so I like just sitting back and turning all the little twinkle lights on and listening with, apple cider or hot chocolate or whatever beverage of your choice. And probably in a few weeks, like maybe after Thanksgiving, you can get a preview. It's called Jingle Jams. And it's not just your typical 10 Christmas songs that you hear on commercial radio. It's a whole bunch of them. And one of the songs that we're going to play is the kind of song that he would have on. Okay, let's see what else. Okay. So holidays are, I think of as a time of renewal. It's the end of the year. Hard to imagine that when January 1st starts that we're going to zip through the year that quickly. And I like doing a retrospective. When I get to the end of the year, I think, okay, what did I do? What did I experience? Who did I meet? This is a really cool ritual. Think about all the people that came into your life since January 1st of this year, 2025, and how they've changed your life and how you've changed their lives. And we meet people every day, even if it's just a brief encounter in the supermarket or, in traffic. I see people's bumper stickers, and if I can pull up next to them and I like their bumper sticker, I'll give them a thumbs up. So they've changed my life. People that I had no idea even existed changed my life as soon as I meet them. I was at a party last night for a friend who was celebrating her 50th birthday, and she's kind of a local celebrity, and it's a party planner, very colorful, flamboyant kind of person. And she asked people, instead of bringing gifts, to bring in stuff to donate to food pantries. So she must have had, I don't know how many pounds of food there, like all these bags. I got a basket, put it in all the basket. It's easier to carry that way. But when I was looking around the room, I probably only knew 5 or 6 people there, but I'm thinking these are all part of her overlapping soul circles, people that have been in her life from all the different aspects of her life. And I sit back and immerse myself in it. Do you ever do that? Or if you're a people watcher, that you sit and you just absorb what's going on around you, even if you're not directly involved? Yeah. And you take that home with you. You take those people home with you in your heart. And because she loves flamingos, she asked people to dress up either flamingo themed or pink, sparkly, there were so many amazing, I felt like I was underdressed. There was a woman when I first walked in wearing a sparkly, like skin tight gown with high heels, and I went, uh-oh, just like go home and get changed. And then there was this couple, older couple wearing flamingo, she was wearing a flamingo dress and he was wearing a flamingo jacket. And she picked out their clothes. There were people just celebrating life. And in the midst of everything going on in the world, we need to find what I call pockets of joy. We need to celebrate life any way we can. There's an author named Audre Lorde, Audrelorde, and she coined the phrase, joy is an act of resistance. So if you're feeling, again, overwhelmed with, and whatever side of the political aisle you're on, if you're feeling overwhelmed with the world the way it is, experience joy, because then you're resisting the hatred and bigotry and destruction in the world. So think about what you can do to bring more joy into your lives at the holidays and how you can bring more joy into other people's lives. One of the things I've been really feeling good about is that local businesses are rising to the occasion. Restaurants are giving people free food if they show them their SNAP card. Businesses are collecting food to donate to food pantries. I think isn't there a bin or a basket or something over there?
Yeah.
So if you get a chance, if you're here next time, because unless you have stuff in the car that you can bring in, any time that you come, bring what you can to fill up the basket. And it's a lot of fun. And this isn't to toot my own horn, but I brought stuff to the party. When I was going through a store, I thought, ooh, this would be fun. And what about this? And how about that? So shopping for other people feels good. There are businesses that have like a wishing tree where they've got little tags of, this is a family in need of, they've got 5 children and here are their clothing sizes, do what you can, because generosity feels good. It feels really good to be of service. It feels really good because I think that's the antidote to despair, is being of service, right? So be as generous as you can with other people, because again, it's going to fill you back up. So I want to encourage you to just let yourselves celebrate life, because that's what you're here for. Our purpose is to love. Our purpose is to connect. One of the things that I didn't mention that I do is free hugs. Are you familiar with that? And that's part of what the TED Talk was about. In Valentine's Day weekend, 2014, I brought a group of friends to 30th Street Station for a free hugs flash mob. And there were 12 of us. And some of them are people that come here or that have come. Greg and Susan Campisi were 2 of my original hug mobsters. So we went there, and I chose that particular day because I wanted people to know that Valentine's Day isn't just one day out of the year, every day. And it's not just about romantic partnerships. Love is for everybody. Hugs are for everybody. So between the 12 of us, we estimated that we hugged about 200 people in an hour. And one of them, who again sticks with me, I tell this story all the time, was an Iraq War vet who approached us and said he was the only survivor of his platoon and he had survivor's guilt. And he said, I was thinking about ending my own life until just now when I met you people. You give me hope. Can I join you? So we gave him his own sign, walking around, hugging everybody. I have no clue what happened to him. I wouldn't recognize him if I saw him, but I hope he continued on and found a positive purpose for his life. So friends started calling us hug mobsters, hug mob, flash mob, mobsters, guns, drugs, violence, and So I added the tagline, armed with love. And then 5 months after that, on the way home from the gym, at the age of 55, I had a heart attack. Totally out of the blue, unexpected. And I want to tell the women in the room that our symptoms are very different from men's symptoms. It's not the left, crushing chest pain, arm kind of experience that men have. For women, it's jaw pain, tightness. Like somebody went like that, I couldn't move my jaw. Torrential sweats, palpitations, searing heartburn pain, front and back. And like the back then workaholic that I was, I didn't go straight to the hospital. I drove home, called my office where I was working as a counselor in an outpatient drug and alcohol abuse program. And I said, I'm not feeling very well. Can you cancel my clients for today? And I still didn't call 911. I got back in the car and drove to Doylestown Hospital. Don't ever do that. Never, never, never. So as part of my cardiac rehab, I walked through Doylestown and I thought, why don't I combine the hugging with the walking? And now I estimate since 2014, it's been 11 years, I've hugged thousands of people all over the world. Well, over the world, in the United States, Canada, and Ireland, that counts. I probably hugged a few people at Heathrow Airport in England on the way over to Ireland. But that's how I celebrate life. That's how I fill back up because it helps me too. So I've been doing that. I'm also part of something called Free Mom Hugs. Have you ever heard of that? Okay, Sarah Cunningham is a mom who lives in Oklahoma City, and probably around the same time as Hug Mobsters was founded, her son came out to her as a gay man, and she was an evangelical Christian, and it just blew her mind that how do I choose between God and my son? And then she realized I don't have to. And he invited her to go to a Pride Fest. She made a button that said Free Mom Hugs. And by the end of the day, she was covered in tears and glitter, the way she described it. So she decided to start her own Free Hugs movement. She left her church, became an ordained minister, and does same-sex weddings. She says, I'm also going to be a stand-in mom at same-sex weddings. She says, if your mom won't be there, I will, and I'll bring the bubbles. So I do free mom hugs at Pride Fest as well. So I encourage you to celebrate the beauty of the holidays, not just from Thanksgiving to New Year's. Celebrate the holidays, the joy, the family, the connection, the love, whatever, the sparkles, whatever it is, that's the best thing for you. And to experience presence, PRESENCE, and not just presence. So I thank you, and I am so grateful that you're all here. Be the light and love that you were born to be. So thank you. And we have questions.